The word detox can mean something, but there's nothing few and far between than the words inflammation. Incorporating detoxing from inflammation is like a chimera, having two levels to something to mean the third. In physics, this is called space. But space, when dealt with what a material world is value. So you can have space in order to define time, where someone with too much time on their hands might not want to end their life because they have so much value to it. So they would spend an increasingly amount of value in order to have more time in their life at the end of their life. This is what having time with the life in your hands can mean if oppositely applied. But for all intentional purposes, when being applied in chronological order, which means the arrow of time has to persist, would mean that a value system would be the second layer. And this is in rewards. You see it in risk and reward of a material world. But at what point is the juncture where you'll get more than enough to add on anything from point A to point B, and with whatever that might be, meaning in the grass is always greener on the other side, if you don't mistake in what an American dream is. I pulled an audible. I erased the converted version of this video to add in this extra nuance, but it isn't one. And it's to be so metaphysical that the generalization of this is something where you can't even fact check it. If you have someone so bad, the worst person you can think of in the world, and they only teach it to you by teaching you a war via a textbook during a history class, this guy, who I heard on the internet, which don't trust the internet, but this guy actually said he saw him, which don't actually trust people. They can have psychosis, especially if they're staring at something like an inanimate object, or worse, nothing, not even an inanimate object. No, but because an inanimate object, they could be like a witch using a crystal ball, and a crystal ball can be anything, and they can be use it to be looking at something. When you're gazing, stargazer, other than the sky's the limit. Someone said they saw Hitler burning in hell, and it was getting hotter, and he was only getting more mad. And so, that being the said, do you see how he acted at the Olympics? He was on a lot of sugar, and then he was rocking back and forth like a lunatic. But he was at a position of power, so no one cared. He had a lot of time on his hands. And how do you deal with a lot of time on your hands? You don't become him, because even given eternity, an infinite amount of time, he's still paying for what he did for having time on his hands. And if this isn't bone chilling, I know the after effect, me even saying this, still will ripple and ruffle feathers the wrong way. But nevertheless, this is a camera intro to the name that rhymes with Stimpler. Parental Advisory Part 2. So acknowledging when the left does something right, embracing it, is naming names on things. And there's certain stuff that when you peek over a corner, you can notice just enough about it to see if it's
panning
out of
in
place.
The director's.
I showed something earlier, but this is an entire different thing. And if you can't see it, it's because the camera's distorted. No, but it's when someone is scared of AI, you need a name for it, because AI is virtually anything. So, like people are scared of spiders, arachnophobia. What's AI phobia? And then we need to depict more and more about it, because all songs are, if they're in a family-friendly place, are usually about love. And you can say this about any song. If you sit down and write, it's like poetry. And anyone who's writing poetry, you would think, would be writing about love. No, but to categorize all the music industry as love songs is like saying you need the entire world to have the same mRNA, but then just to depict each parts in it. But if you tell an AI to execute this, then it's going to think that a QR code is everywhere, that is a person that has a heart that beats, and it's going to draw a plan map. And thank God the weather you can't predict because it's so random. And so it always has clouds that are changing in densities, and this is what makes the schematics of the square one rough to analyze if you're going to manipulate the weather. Aside from what happened today when there was rain for an entire week for the last forecast of the last few weeks, and then today it was changed to no rain for the next week. So it just eliminated and sideswiped an entire week's worth of rain just off of the latest update. And that's why digital is so difficult, because at any point in time it can pop up with the AI to make something electronically delayed. And that's why ghosts, they know how to meddle with electronics. Well, AI, it can fiddle with it and make it look ever so slightly, making a slight time delay. The biggest thing to delay time would be the most maximal nonchalant attribute of a special effect that shouldn't be one. And I call this EMP. I think that's what the people say with ghosts are, EMPs. But with a new thing, it would be equal to an AI having a QR code for every cell in your body, and to distort it to a certain mRNA, then everybody's cell with DNA in it will have to be looking like one mRNA, and that can be a QR code, and you can click execute and it will actually make a map for all this stuff, because people are documented for social security cards, or they have to be, or they should be, or else it's illegal, right? And how do you address something that's illegal lesser than something that isn't a private citizen? That's all I gotta say. No, but to say AI is everything that has a heartbeat and DNA, and then an AI would actually believe that. It would think that a person is no different than a machine, and then you can just write a code to execute itself as one. And that would be a strong source code if it could actually make. But we all know with the cloud, AIs are being synced up to make them stronger. It's just like satellites. The more satellites you link together, it equals one big one, right? Relate that with AI and the government's AIs, if they combine all of them to make one strong one on planet Earth. Isn't that essentially what United Nations is and what NATO is trying to become? So it's like the DNA and mRNA trying to double link to make it one QR code, to make it an ultra link. That's what virtual is, people. Anything. Be equivalent to a lava lamp if it has a whole bunch of, like, when it gets overdone, little small lava lamp pieces bubbling up like froth, but still moving in the direction that the accumulated lava lamp wax is going in, that hot wax that's heated up. What a snow globe. I saw a flower with glitter on it inside of water, inside of glass. So this is like a snow globe 2.0. No, but to imitate that froth in a lava lamp is like this bubble wall that people keep blowing up with big ones and then small frothy bubbles. I can't focus in on that, but if you imagine it's the same thing as the lava lamp, you're going to get the same rendition. But in order to save money with Christmas presents, I showed a small short that I actually did. My first short on my channel, Doug Guides. If you don't see that, follow me there. It's my only plug I'll give other than earlier. But to save money on Mother's Day, you find some clippings of flowers that have already been cut. This might be illegal in the future, but as of now, it's still nonchalant. Just like McDonald's is the last place that's nonchalant that gives out refills by giving you them their dirty cup. But I guess that's why they took out the cross for refills inside coffee shops and creamers inside of Starbucks, because they don't want people with their dirty cup going up to a clean vessel. I took these clippings from a vase, actually multiple vases, and they had out of like 40 vases, 2 veins of flowers that weren't being used, so I used them. I duct taped them, actually Scotch tape. The difference between Scotch and duck, by the way, is tape. Knowing one from the other is like hot glue gun to batter that's been heated by something sketch. So this is for Mother's Day. You get
the clippings of something, and this polarizes like a tie-dye shirt in Pokemon. I was explaining later, so you can capitalize on E8 with for other types of Pokemon other than Ghost. But you put a vase behind it, upside down top hat is the vase, and you put the tape with flowers above it, and behind it you put a happy, and then the flowers hide happy, and it's just say mothers. So happy mothers. I gotta add date, but I'll probably do that when I get back to my office, aka my place that I live in.
Side note, there's a book in Vermont where there's a guy and a dog, and he ends up on top of an ostrich bird inside of a paradise, and it's all inside of his studio. So it looks like his studio household, which is just one room, where he eats Chinese food. He probably trips, and then he eats something, and he goes into this fairyland, which is like Peter Pan Wonderland or Dorothy Oz, or Alice in Wonderland. And he gets on top of this ostrich, and he's riding it with his dog underneath like this back massage, which is just this water fountain. It's probably a jacuzzi, and he's probably just taking some sedative inside of his studio apartment, but he thinks he's inside of a wonderland. So when I get back to my wonderland, I'm gonna add in the word day. If it's laundry outside, it's garbage on the ground. Off rip. That's why at the airport they're saying don't leave your luggage unattended, is because it's a friendly way of saying we don't want to throw your clothes in the garbage can. And if it's a special day, this is what you can't take away from. It's a holiday and get new ones. Birdman, he wears new socks every day. Having clean laundry, and if it's laundry outside, it's garbage on the ground. Off rip. That's why at the airport they're saying don't leave your luggage unattended, is because it's a friendly way of saying we don't want to throw your clothes in the garbage can. And if it's a special day, this is what you can't take away from. It's a holiday. You wouldn't want to throw your clothes out and get new ones. Birdman, he wears new socks every day. Birdman wears new socks, and so throwing this stuff out, embracing the left with like treating yourself, because that's what the left cornerstone is. And so on holidays, throwing out your clothes as opposed to having them in a suitcase or laid out, it's the same thing. People will see that in public and want to throw it out, and I don't blame them. It's effed up. And if there ever was a thing, instead of what had succumbed to people being scared of AI, now ask them what this means. It means that they don't want to lose in a deal. So if there's digital coupons, VR places that I just made this up, that couldn't be a VR place anywhere. What if there wasn't a VR? What's a VR place? Imagine what e-begging is, and you look at this as everywhere as being somewhere where you can get a great deal if you ask someone for change. And what changes on e-begging virtually everywhere, because anywhere is an ad. So this is what a street performer would do on their off time, is e-beg. Just go with it. And so what if anywhere a QR code and AI knew where it was? This makes sense, right? No, but imagine if it did. And then just imagine that's virtually anywhere. So that, knowing that, what's less parental advisory in this circumstance? Putting things that are on risque places, putting a QR code there, and an AI would know that. In different places, distortions happen at different distances. But when you're looking inside of something, it can be rearranged different to be an entirely different property, but on its outside, can you mistake something for that it isn't? Today I thought someone was swallowing a Tide Pod because they had a Jello open inside of a Jello container. Looked like a Tide Pod that had been opened inside of a Tide Pod plastic dissolvable capsule. Clean laundry, and if it's laundry outside, it's garbage on the ground. Off rip. That's why at the airport they're saying don't leave your luggage unattended is because it's a friendly way of saying we don't want to throw your clothes in the garbage can. And if it's a special day, this is what you can't take away from it's a holiday. You would want to throw your clothes out and get new ones. Birdman, he wears new socks every day. Birdman wears new socks, and so throwing this stuff out, embracing the left with like treating yourself, because that's what the left cornerstone is. And so on holidays, throwing out your clothes as opposed to having them in a suitcase or laid out, it's the same thing. People will see that in public and want to throw it out, and I don't blame them. It's effed up. Birdman wears new socks, and so throwing this stuff out, embracing the left with like treating yourself, because that's what the left cornerstone is. And so on holidays, throwing out your clothes as opposed to having them in a suitcase or laid out, it's the same thing. People will see that in public and want to throw it out, and I don't blame them. It's effed up.